Every frame tells a story, not just through the actors, lighting or camera movement, but through the world those elements exist in. The color of the walls, the texture of the furniture, or the objects which actors hold. The look of the space shapes how we feel about the story unfolding before us. Behind that world is one key creative, the production designer. In this video, we'll break down what a production designer actually does on set, how they collaborate with the director and cinematographer to bring a film's visual language to life, and why their work begins long before the camera ever rolls. Production design is the backbone of what filmmakers call mise-en-scene. The phrase comes from theatre, literally meaning putting on stage, and describes everything that appears within the frame and how it's arranged. For example, how the set or location looks and what objects or props are placed in that space. It's the job of the production designer to create mise-en-scene which transforms abstract ideas, or places described in the script, into physical reality, giving the audience something to see and feel. They do this as head of the art department by translating the director's vision into the film's tangible shooting environments. Since there's an expectation that these sets will be mostly ready to shoot by the time the crew arrives at each location, the production designer and their team will need to put in a lot of work in pre-production. They'll start by reading the script, researching, talking to the director, cinematographer and costume designer, and conceptualizing the film's main environments. Often creating a mood board, sketches or some kind of pre-visualization document that depicts the overall style, color palette and aesthetic influences. The design required could change vastly depending on the subject matter or tone the director wants. Is the tone of the film whimsical, comedic, light, neat, symmetrical, and theatrical? Or does the movie need a realistic, darker, neutral, historically accurate set? Some scenes may want to adhere to a strictly limited color palette which feels almost cartoonish. Others may want a more tonally subdued or neutral environment, a space which is bright and saturated, or to create a subtle feeling of unease and sickness by dressing in objects which are off-green or have a yellow tinge. Another idea is to lean thematically towards either a warmer, homely space with wood, warmer colors and softer textures, or create a cooler set with hard edges and glass, which is more sparsely dressed. As well as creating a feeling or tone, production design can also be used to more literally inform the audience or tell the story. This could be done by creating a realistic environment of an historically accurate and researched space, or by adding details which hints at the character's life, such as a photo of their family, or a placard that signifies their job title. Often this will be explicitly described in the script, however these ideas may also be put forward by the designer. With these concepts in mind, they'll liaise with the production team, the director, location scout, cinematographer, and sometimes other crew to come up with physical spaces which work on an aesthetic, budget, and practical level. This will usually be a real-world location, but in some instances may have to be a set built on a soundstage. The design of the film is usually broken into a couple of elements. 1. Set design, which is dressing the physical location such as painting walls or selecting furniture. And 2. Props, which are key objects on the set integral to the story, which the actors interact with. These spaces will then need to be recce'd to see if they are suitable, and if so, if there are existing props or dressing in the location which work, and what kind of dressing needs to be purchased, rented, and brought in. Measurements will also be taken to determine what props will fit in the space, or in case special modifications or alterations will need to be done. Deciding on a shooting location is of course largely determined by its aesthetic appeal. However, production designers will also collaborate with cinematographers on its practical merits. For example, is an interior space large enough to film the wide shot and do the kind of camera moves which are imagined? Can a dolly fit through the doorway and get into the location? Is the location easily accessible for parking technical vehicles and getting gear inside quickly? The DP will also collaborate with them on lighting. Since practicals, light sources which are part of the set, are such an important part of lighting nowadays, the production designer and DP will work together to find a placement for each prac, how they will be powered, and determine what kind of source it is or color temperature it will have, such as an overhead fluorescent, an LED film light built into the walls, or a warm incandescent bulb and a lampshade. They may also decide on other lighting decisions, such as whether the windows have curtains which light will come through, and if so, what diffusive material is chosen. The designer's job may also extend a bit beyond just finding a location and dressing it. For example, they may need to source cars which the actors drive, create the logos of fictional companies, or design practical visual elements which will be displayed on TVs or phones. To set up these various spaces, production designers will need to manage probably the largest team on the set, the art department. Under the designer is an art director, who sometimes also has assistants. They oversee the overall execution of creating sets, often ahead of shooting, and may work with the designer on admin tasks like managing the budget. There's usually also a standby, whose job it is to be on each set as the production is shooting to make sure all aspects of the production design are kept in place. With all of these people to manage on large jobs, there may be a coordinator who organizes the team's schedule, tasks, admin, and budget. There may also be a dedicated pre-viz team, such as storyboard or concept artists. Some jobs, such as for sets built on sound stages, will require a whole team of construction contractors, from carpenters to painters. There may be a subsection of the art department called the sets department, with decorators, dressers, and buyers that purchase objects and furnish the location. Some exteriors may even call for a greens team who specialize in landscaping film sets. Then there is the property department with the props master and their assistants who need to acquire, store, and make sure all the correct objects are on set at the right time. For example, if the script describes that a character needs an acoustic guitar, then they are responsible for that object being there on the correct shoot day and scene. For jobs with firearms or weapons, an armorer will be required, who usually falls into the property section of the art department. Acquisition or sourcing of production design elements happens in various ways. Objects may exist in the real locations which are selected. Some are rented from specialist prop or art houses, purchased from a shop, designed and built from scratch, or may even come from the designer's personal collection. An average day on set for a production designer is all about supervision, collaboration, and problem solving. They usually arrive early to check the day's sets, which should hopefully already have been set up in advance, making sure everything is dressed and camera ready. They'll walk through the set with the art director, double-checking details like prop placement and continuity from previous scenes, to determine whether things are in the same place as before, or if they need to be moved around a bit to indicate the passage of time. Throughout the day, they will probably go ahead to dress the next day's shooting locations, while leaving a standby to manage their set. They will stay in close contact with the director and cinematographer, updating them with photos of newly dressed spaces and ensuring the visual design aligns with the story and shot composition. Once the director arrives in the space, or after the shot has been lined up, the standby may be required to make tweaks to the design. For example, if a background element is standing out too much, they may want to remove it from the set. The standby art director may also need to make specific changes based on the camera's position and the lighting, like tilting a mirror to catch a character's reflection, or moving a plant into a space to populate and cover an otherwise white wall. Between takes, the standby is also responsible for restoring the set to its original condition. These resets may mean collaborating with a continuity supervisor, for example, making sure that at the beginning of each take, the food on each character's plate or in their glass remains the same. They may also have administrative duties to perform, such as doing a budget meeting or reconciliation with a coordinator, to make sure they are on track to not overspend their allotted budget. One of the greatest elements of visual storytelling is its mise-en-scene. The work of a production designer plays a massive role in giving a film its world, its texture, and its sense of reality or unreality. Every wall color, every prop, every carefully chosen detail is a piece of visual storytelling that shapes how we experience the story. From the earliest concept sketches to the final frame on set, the production designer ensures that what we see on screen feels cohesive, intentional, and in tandem with the vision of the director. They're not just decorating a space, they're building the emotional and thematic foundation of the film itself. Whether you're a production designer who wants to educate themselves on the history of cinema, or just someone who enjoys watching movies, MUBI, today's sponsor, is the place for you. When it comes to naturalistic filmmaking and production design, Hong Sang-soo's films stand out, such as Tale of Cinema, which I was able to watch on MUBI. Part of the collection Hong Sang-soo x2, Tale of Cinema is one of the acclaimed South Korean director's earlier works, which made the official selection at Cannes Film Festival. It mixes portrayals of complex contemporary romantic relationships with nods to the creative world of theatre and cinema. The environment and sets play a heavy role in supporting the realistic, true-to-life performances and naturalistic style of storytelling, which is accentuated by a simplistic but interesting and never distracting camera language with an often statically placed camera and a gradually zoom-in lens. If you want to check out a fantastic selection of curated, streamable cinema just like this, then you should head over to MUBI. You can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/indepthcine. That's mubi.com/indepthcine for a whole month of amazing cinema for free. Thanks to everyone for watching, and a special thanks to all the patrons whose wonderful support allows me to keep making these videos. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.